We're going to try to make this quicker than the last tier list video involving Marvel vs. Capcom series. So this is going to be a complete Tekken tier list video. Obviously, we play more than one Tekken game. You know, we're real fighting gamers over here. So instead of just doing a tier list featuring characters of one game, we're going to do the tier list of the entire series. Let's get started. I could make a video about it, but this is kind of how I see this series. This is a chart I made about like 2 years ago, and remember, this is fresh on my mind because for most of these Tekken games, I spent a week playing it and I ran long sets. Since now you have the ability to play nearly every one of these games online. So there's no nostalgia going on here. Yeah, we're gonna get started.
Round one, fight.
So our first contestant is Tekken 1. Right off the bat, the gameplay is abysmal. It definitely doesn't age well. Way too clunky and stiff with no ability to sidestep, which would be added in the next iteration. Comboing seems almost non-existent. No stances or characters with substantial move lists means the game lacks replay value in comparison to future iterations. By default, your character takes a million years to get back up. Hitbox locations are more mysterious than the Bermuda Triangle. Being locked into a muddy, back and forth only 2D arcade fighting environment is torture for anyone going back and playing this iteration of the franchise. In positive news, you can really see how much every future Tekken borrowed from this game. Many of the strings you use in the latest Tekken can still be found here, even down to the voice acting, like Jack for instance. Further examples is the on-hit reaction when it comes to Nina's Blom Bomb, jumping attacks, and unique throws. There's undoubtedly a lot of familiarity here when revisiting this title from any future Tekken. Soundtrack is good. Standouts include Monument Valley Song, where it features a very ominous, foreboding feeling. And Acropolis, which feels equally as serious but with a great rhythm. Windermere features prominent horns and a hectic melody that gives the fight a sense of urgency. A good variety in the song overall. The UI presentation is completely bland and uninspiring with no transition animations and using the ugliest font they could find. It's expected with early games like this, which were just arcade ports in the truest sense, but it's something to be aware of. Finally, some Easter eggs are one, it's kind of cool to be able to play Galaga in the loading screen of Tekken 1. I grew up with Tekken 5, Smash Melee, and even Time Splitters 2, so playing minigames in the form of intermissions is great. And for the second Easter egg, I never knew King was shown without the mask until I watched the intro to the game. So is he black? Brazilian? That's pretty cool, either way. It's hard to judge this game without being there at the time when it was the only Tekken. From historical context, I'm aware of the competition between Tekken and Virtua Fighter and the importance these games have in the foundation of the 3D fighting game genre. So graphically and presentation-wise, it would probably be a lot more outstanding to me if I grew up with this game and had context to its release and the advancement of video game architecture in general. Maybe somebody in the comments can chime in about it. So having said all that, my final rating for the first entry into the series, that will go into D tier.
Final round, fight!
For Tekken number 2, I'm actually speechless. A monumental jump in quality. Way higher poly count, you see ambient lighting and shadows, soundtrack is miles ahead of Tekken 1, and that's putting it lightly. This soundtrack is some of the best I've heard in this series, honestly. Standouts are Paul stage, Michelle stage, Kazuya boss stage, and ending credits. Gameplay is more fluid and far less clunky. Korean backdashing is also introduced here. So we've finally been freed from the shackles of stagnant movement. Animations are far more smooth. You can tell this company at this point was in rare form. So one type of ethos you get when playing this game is it has the desire to be cool. Devil Kazuya boss fight is mysterious and weird in a good way. Are we in the House of Mirrors? What's going on? He actually seems intimidating and scary, which as someone who started in Tekken 4, I never got this feeling. It's okay to not be understood. It's okay to be ambiguous. That's what this game gives off a sense of, you know? It's the kind of the 90s flair of we're not afraid to embarrass ourselves. We want to be cool for cool's sake, you know? It's more of a cultural problem, but it's a breath of fresh air when you go back and play these old games and play against a mutant boss in the form of a demon in a pitch black room. That sense of wonder is vacuumed out of modern games. Speaking of voice lines, they're great in the 90s kind of way. I love Paul's sounds and grunts. Law goes without saying. You can also tell how much they borrowed from this past game and later games when it comes to movesets, hit animations, and funny sequences like Paul attempting to do a backflip. So great game and would play again. As for the rating, let's go ahead and grab Tekken 2. And this will be going in the B tier, right there. For the next game, we are going to be talking about Tekken 3. This is the first game that sets the tone for that signature Tekken feel, divorced from the frontiersman 3D polygon fighter feel. Plenty of additional modes from 2 such as Tekken Ball, Tekken Force mode, and Theater soundtrack, which overall makes the content a step up. Especially Tekken Force mode, this is the first game to have that, which you'll also see in many of the later games. Best character themes 3 games in. Great character tracks like Jin Kazama and my personal favorite, Gunjack theme. It's a jump graphically, but in my opinion is not as noticeable of a jump as from Tekken 1 to 2. You can now sidestep, there are low parries, and you can start to see the team breathe life into the characters by giving them origin stories like Nina emerging from the tank, Soul Calibur exhibition like performances after beating the arcade mode, stages that are clearly more signature to the character and story driven. Fan favorites like Eddie Gordo and Lei are fleshed out here. Now I see where they got the Tekken 8 intro animations before round 1 starts. You really see the blueprint for all future Tekkens with Tekken 3 especially. Tekken 3 was the primary clone. That was a Weapon X, the original Weapon X. Signature costumes like Heihachi's fur coat, Julia's jean skirt with the feathers in her hair, and Paul's black biker outfit with the flame symbols. Everything I listed out will be constantly regurgitated in future Tekkens in the form of 2P costumes or character customization items, Tekken Jukebox, or outright porting Tekken 3 songs into remixed older stages like Tekken Tag Tournament 2. In that sense, this game is patient zero and is the first Tekken where your skill translates to every other Tekken after it. So let's grab Tekken 3 and we'll put this in S tier. It has to be S tier. This game was just as fun playing alongside today as any newer Tekken. Alright, so the next game will be Tekken Tag Tournament 1. A solid game. Having only played Tekken Tag Tournament 2 before this run, I now see how they pretty much one-to-one copied this game for the second edition. Soundtrack's a solid drum and bass that's more upbeat and fitting to Tekken gameplay, but a step down from Tekken 2 and 3 in my opinion. The stage design, however, is vastly superior to early Tekkens. Shopping malls, temple alleyways, all feel filled in and lived in. Motion and graphics are great, and this is the first time you get that feeling of uniqueness in the backgrounds with characters jogging, cheering, soldiers making their rounds across the perimeter. Character and facial animations are a huge step up. So there's a bigger character pool here, and they have old and new generation fighters together, like how Beck and Hwoarang are present in the same game, which is nice. So overall, a great entry. However, I do have a problem with them splitting moves for certain characters like Jack into, P-Jack, and I believe Gunjack as well. So that's kind of a minor gripe. Now, I didn't get to play this particular game online, so I don't have an opinion formed by playing alongside with someone. So keep that in mind too. So for Tekken Tag Tournament, let's go ahead and grab Tekken Tag Tournament, and I'm going to put this in B tier. So that's a solid B tier. So this is a weird one. In my quest to play every Tekken game, I ran into a game called Tekken Card Challenge, which was released on the, what was it? Was it the Wonder Swan? It was the Wonder Swan, which is a Bandai Namco machine, right? That was a Japanese only handheld console released in Japan. So this is an action-based card game that never released in the US, like I said. On top of that, as of today, there isn't any port or unofficial fan translation, so there's no way I can even interpret what I'm playing. If that wasn't bad enough, those who have played it that can read kanji apparently say the game is terrible, so it's a pass and really won't be included in the list. So I'll just leave this icon here. Next game will be Tekken Advance, and this will be a Tekken game for the Game Boy Advance, right? This game plays surprisingly well. It feels like Tekken and characters mostly play the same. Limited to 2 buttons because of the GBA layout, but they pack a lot of moves in each character. Soundtrack sounds like Tekken 3 with some original tracks. So for a Game Boy Advance game, this game looks and feels pretty good, honestly. Having said that, this probably predictably will be in the C tier.
Come on.
So now we get to Tekken 4. Best immersive soundtrack in the entire genre, bar none. These songs feel experimental and a breath of fresh air. So there's an interesting dynamic camera panning as the fight is going on. So the select screen isn't 90s coded anymore, it's dynamic with 3D name changes. Moves are shown as you perform them in practice mode. Characters now have the signature 100+ move list, so Tekken Force is there. You're able to utilize replay data, and even the characters shift to another part of some stages during round 2 and 3. Stage design is great, and really the stages feel like they're realistic fight settings. This is the best Jin has ever looked in the series when he went to Brisbane, Australia with his purple hoodie to unlearn the Mishima Zaibatsu style, right? I actually referenced that in the song, by the way.
Light a flame in Brisbane, the back disconnects from a string, devil jeans and a jacket.
Speaking of this, individual characters are represented better here than most other featured Tekken titles. Why are Jin's moves into mental alertness animated better and look cooler than Tekken 5 and 6? Law's staircase command grab has stepping sounds and a whoosh sound that's not in T6 or T7 or T8. What happened to this cool Marduk move? Characters now have stances and execution intensive extensions like Law's Dragon Sign stance cancels. Oh, and newcomers include Marduk, Steve, and Christy. So this is like an all-star lineup, like every newcomer people like. And the overall animation improvement is a lot more noticeable from Tekken 3 to 4 than it is from Tekken 1 to 2 or from 2 to 3. So overall, this game feels like it has a certain cool, mysterious flavor. Very Y2K flavored, you know? It feels like they want to push the boundaries and reach new heights when it comes to the FGC. This sounds cheesy, but play the game and you'll see in every little thing from the menus to the announcer, it really seems like they want to make a fighting game that's never been made before. And so that feeling you don't really get in newer fighting games, to where they often want to make something in the past and they want to bait you with nostalgia, right? So this game has an identity which in the future the series is going to lack from Tekken 6 and on. A new century of fighting. What happened to new fighting games declaring that a new era was upon us? What happened to that? So obviously, it's not all good. There's bad things that I can see from the experimental mechanics being abusable with Jin and the Korean backdash being completely missing. So this right here kind of kills this game competitively, which kind of locks it into just a casual experience. Like the wall hits, the uneven terrain, the camera angles, that alone will have to bump it down 2 rankings. Which honestly, this game should have been an S tier game. But because of all those experimental mechanics which degrade the competitive experience, then I have to bump this down from an S tier to a B tier. It's dragged down by the competitive experience, but it's hoisted up by the presentation. So the middle ground will be a B tier.
Get ready for the next battle.
Well, I mean, this is the game that put it all together. It has a presentation comparable to a T4 with the playability and tech of a Tekken 3 or a Tag 2. This is the quintessential penultimate version of Tekken. If you played every Tekken game, I think that's pretty objective to say. The final version of Tekken if one were to choose a complete product with fresh ideas. So spoiler alert, but every Tekken after this feels like unnecessary DLC without a sense of purpose.
Time to die.
Has some of the most infamous stages and soundtracks in the genre, like Dragon's Nest or Moonlit Wilderness. Songs have good build-up and dynamism, which creates a mood to fight. Game feels 100x more fun and competitive to play than T4. Korean backdash makes its return, and backdashing gives the most distance per dash. Every subsequent game diminishes the length of the backdash, starting after T5. That really lets you know in terms of the worth of the game you're playing, right? And speaking more on competitive integrity, this is the last Tekken game without Bound or Spiral or Tornado, so combo length was manageable, which makes for a more technical, competitive experience. Also the last Tekken game without the comeback mechanics known as Rage, Heat, any of the above mechanics. So it's the first game with character customization, which also appears for AI in arcade mode. And the new characters to the roster were all home runs, even more than Tekken 4, with Raven, Fang, and Asuka. And obviously just look at the game for 2 seconds and you'll see this is the best facial mocap animation in the entire series, which still holds true today. Better than Tekken 8, which is kind of sad. This is the one game in this series that feels like a compilation of everything Tekken was building up since the first Tekken. Like you're eating the fruits of the Tekken team's labor almost. Also, this is more subjective, but it has the best versions of most characters in the series. So like the Raven looks amazing here, but not overdone and overly flashy like in Tekken 8. Nina's iconic purple spy outfit. Asuka with her wrestling inspired gear looks like an actual combatant to be taken seriously. Lee with the designer jeans, chainmail undershirt, and Pegasus symbol in the back. So not only does this feel like the complete game, but it feels like canon version of characters are in this game. So obviously you can tell by now I have bias here, but I remember playing the arcade version of this game as a kid and was legitimately distressed that I couldn't main half the roster. My kid brain felt that every single character looked so freaking cool. And I've never felt that way about a fighting game until Tekken 5. So grabbing the logo here, needless to say, this is the easiest S tier ranking I've ever done. No need to deliberate. We're also going to include Dark Resurrection, which was more like a balancing and competitive upgrade to Tekken 5. So just gameplay wise, this feels like the refined, complete edition of Tekken 5. Balance improves, but more importantly to me, characters are given new moves that really flesh them out and creates fun gameplay. So as if the newcomers couldn't get any better, they also knocked it out of the park with Lily and Dragunov from a design standpoint. Animation is improved across the board and sets the stage for the best moving Tekken game of the series, which will be 6. Spoiler alert. The alternative color schemes for characters, alternate stages, and tons of remixes, which gives this game a fresh set of paint, so it doesn't just feel like DLC to Tekken 5, you know? So unfortunately, modes are missing like Devil Within, which is kind of the Tekken Force equivalent. So it doesn't feel like the complete edition of Tekken 5 overall, but just in terms of gameplay, like I said. So this is the first game where you can utilize ghost data, so that's a huge plus, which will be used in every future Tekken game. It's like a version B of Tekken 5 rather than a 2.0. Nevertheless, I'm still considering this a Tekken 5, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is gameplay, so Dark Resurrection without a doubt is the best gameplay experience the Tekken series has to offer. No other Tekken game in the future thus far has a pure distilled Tekken experience like DR. It's kind of a moot point, but obviously this also goes in the S tier. Actually, I might put this in A tier, only because it didn't really get a proper console release, so graphically it's inferior to Tekken 5. It lacks tons of modes and options, so it feels like we never got a complete Dark Resurrection version, but it doesn't feel like a total complete product. It's better to combine them, but if not, then I'm gonna put Dark Resurrection in the A tier just because of its release format and lack of a proper console release. I have to put it in A tier. All right, so now we're doing Tekken 6. My personal favorite Tekken game. So it has a great diverse set of newcomers, graphics are superb and still hold up today. Music was actually on par with T5 with standout tracks that even surpassed the previous game. So memorable, more interesting final boss in the Azazel versus Jinpachi. So best character customization options in the entire series, which is still the case as of T8. Also the best Tekken Force Devil Within mode in the entire series as well. The Tekken Force mode here is now an RPG in which your customization items come with properties, stats, and magical effects. You can also play with the entire cast, use their entire move list, and you can play online co-op. But for me as an artist and animator, more importantly, this game has the best choreographic animation in the entire series. So the individual character Discord tech was maxed out in this game. So the drawbacks, if you were to consider traditional Tekken, being the balance system implemented, so the advent of long-form combos in Tekken, and also rage mode for the first time in a non-tag game. And this is the first Tekken game that felt like a collection of fighters and characters instead of a unified entry with a clear direction. And I'm saying that despite the fact that this is my favorite Tekken game. So objectively, the game has so much going for it in terms of content, animation, and character presentation quality that it should probably be in the S tier, but the existence of bounds, which turned Tekken offensively into a more interesting fighter spectator-wise, but made the overall experience more toxic and shameless. Also, like I said, the existence of the comeback mechanic known as Rage, which cheapens the competitive integrity of the game and the feeling of a sequel existing just to exist rather than having a clear direction, lowers this from an S tier to either an A or B. But again, considering the objective strengths of the game, to which is superior to any other current Tekken, it propels it to an A tier. Just thinking of the fact that as a series which serves as a martial arts simulation, this game visually has the best exhibition of martial arts in the entire series, makes it hard to lower it beyond A tier. Next game will be Tekken Tag Tournament 2. A very solid game as a complete package, but in terms of gameplay, this marks the beginning of Toxic Tekken. So the backdash length is reduced and the combo length dramatically extended due to the tag system. And to be honest with you, it's criminal to have to deal with two different characters in an extremely offensively complex fighting game, with characters hosting over 100 moves each. It simply just doesn't work as a serious competitive product. And this is someone who was there day one and ran the entire gauntlet. And that right there was a unified gripe of Tag 2 in a nutshell. So going back to the positives, it had creative modes like Fight Lab, a custom decal mode where you can make your own designs on customization items, which meant this was easily the best customization mode of the Tekken series when you consider custom decals. So if you were there at the time in Tag 2, you would see that content creators went crazy with making characters from every different type of series using the custom decals. This was like PC fighting game costume mod levels, but on a console rather than a computer. So although this was the start of Tekken characters' new animations looking janky, it was undoubtedly graphically the best visual in combination with the animated presentation this series has reached, simply because it improved and fleshed out Tekken 6's newly animated streams and moves. So no other Tekken game does the characters look this fluid. And keyword fluid, not graphical resolution, but fluidity. Tons of Easter eggs, creative intros and outros. Soundtrack was the beginning of the techno wave that has dominated Tekken's OST, including Tekken 8. So it's a step down from 6, but it had a larger soundtrack with some great songs. It had the Smash Ultimate effect of everyone being here, which means a very large roster. But like I said earlier, it was to its detriment competitively because labbing was a nightmare with so many characters and especially so many demons and magical unorthodox characters like Angel, Dr. Boskanovich, Ancient Ogre, True Ogre, Slim Bomb, was the Butler Sebastian, I believe. So as a casual dream match game equivalent to King of Fighters, Mugen, or Smash Ultimate, then the game works wonderfully. But competitively, like Tekken 4, you're gonna have problems. So having said all that, this could go anywhere because competitively it could go down here, but just overall content and presentation, fluidity, how it looks, it could go somewhere up here. But I'm going to put this in the B. That's a solid B tier. Let's talk about the 017ers. Tekken 7. At this point now, modern Tekken players will be familiar with this game. Right off the back, Tekken 7 lacks content and modes. No Devil Within mode, no team battle, no ghost battle. New animations are very low budget. The game itself is very low budget. And it's even more so exposed now that Tekken 8 is out and Tekken 8 is very high budget. You can really see the past game look like crap. So in terms of the balance, it's worse than Tekken 6 during many seasons of the game. From the Josie Rizal and Dragunov Supremacy in Season 1, to the Super Saiyan Leroy Evo Japan scandal. The game being left on Season 4 is more balanced than it started, but their solution was to buff the whole cast, which makes the game very touch of deathy. So this introduced rage arts and rage drives, Street Fighter mechanics along with a Street Fighter character in Akuma. From a Tekken game standpoint, you can already guess this isn't going to be rated very high. So the guest characters were a mixture of hype and randomness, which makes the total experience seem like random guest characters in the roster. So Akuma and Geese were cool, but Noctis and Negan from The Walking Dead? From roster decisions to stages to artistic direction, is all pretty much missing. Very low bar. Simply put, the game has no canonical purpose. They marketed the end of the Mishima saga, but skipping over Jin and Lars and going back to Kazuya vs Heihachi feels weird. Feels like the Mishima saga should have been concluded at least 2 games ago. So when you play the story mode, the caption guy has to be the most monotone voice you've ever heard.
The way he stared at me from the door let me know that he wanted me to follow him. Hypnotized, I walked slowly towards him. As we left the restaurant.
So the character story chapters are extremely lazily done, with the reused in-game character intro, text with no voiceover, and just a single battle. Very low budget game, like I said. The tutorial and training features are nice and better than any previous Tekken, and I will give credit to this game serving as the Smash Bros. Brawl to the series and introducing a whole generation to Tekken along with the burgeoning modding community. But yeah, gameplay wise, I'd argue overbuffing every character plus rage arts plus rage drives makes the competitive integrity worse than no Korean backdashing on Tekken 4 or Lars and Bob in T6. Because remember, the backdash length also is reduced from Tag 2. So Korean backdashing is less effective overall as the series keeps going on. So visually, the entire game is passable. And that's just putting it lightly. The music is underwhelming with the exception of like 2 stages. There's no character themes whatsoever. Facial mocap is significantly worse than Tekken 5. Watch my Oscar video if you don't believe me. Costumes feel more like cosplay than canonical outfits. And also the fact that for the first time ever, you have to pay for characters to even train against them in training mode. And additionally, there's really nothing to do outside of playing online. Because like I said, there's no real content in modes like there were in T6, Tag 2, or even a Tekken 3. This isn't going to be climbing very high, and I'm going to have to put this in the D tier. Sorry if this is your first Tekken, sorry if you have fond memories with this, but we have to be objective here, so. All right, drum roll. We got our final game, Tekken 8. You can probably already guess where this is gonna go without even beginning. Let's give it a fair shake. I spent more time playing Tekken 8 as a new game I haven't played versus playing Tekken 1 through 4. And having reached the rank of God of Destruction 2 in a very limited amount of hours, I feel like I have the authority to now talk about Tekken 8 and include it in the list. So for Tekken 8, it's almost not fair to even put this game on the list. Objectively speaking, Tekken 8 isn't a Tekken game. It's sort of an intense, action-packed fighting game that's 50 to 60% Tekken. There are so many negatives in comparison to the other games that I'll start with the positives. The graphical presentation is great. Sound design sounds great, and overall the game looks gorgeous. Loads of quality of life features like better training mode, frame data access you don't have to pay for, and tons of legacy animations that have been cleaned up thoroughly. It's really good stuff. Tekken finally looks and feels like a modern game. For the negatives, nearly every change from 7 to 8 has been targeted to remove the core gameplay away from traditional Tekken and into a sphere of offense-oriented chaos and unpredictability. Not even going into why these decisions were made, but simply what product you have in front of you. Significantly reduced backdash, no ranked endless rematch, auto-impact string completion that you first saw with characters like Lydia in Tekken 7, but now that's many characters in the roster. When it comes to you do a string, and if there's no impact, it won't do the third hit of the string, right? Like Kunimitsu. But if there is an impact, whether on hit on defense, then it will complete it out. So the game is kind of playing for you. There's the existence of chip damage for the first time, which if you know anything about what makes Tekken Tekken, you'll know that that can't be a good decision. Existence of Street Fighter like super attacks. Heat engage mechanic, which changes properties of moves, which makes labbing the hardest task out of any Tekken game, including Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Since characters on average on Tekken 8 are significantly stronger than Tag 2. So there's auto and user triggered heat dash neutral skips, which kills neutral integrity, as well as the entire cast having breakable guard moves leading to unblockables. And like Tekken 7, an inability to lab DLC characters in training mode without paying for them. Every single thing I mentioned outside of the rage arts was never in a past Tekken game. This is what I mean when I deliberate on even including this game in a Tekken tier list video. Half of what you're playing is Tekken, and the other half is some sort of nondescript offensive oriented fighting game. So because this is a Tekken tier list being judged on the standards of what has made Tekken popular, then this game gets an easy F tier. This F had to be created for Tekken 8. And remember, this isn't based on the game in isolation, but based on someone purchasing this game with the intent to play Tekken. By itself, it's low-key a fun game. I actually had fun playing Tekken 8. And people will consider me the biggest hater. And I had fun playing it when I stopped thinking of it as a Tekken game. And I just start thinking of it as a game on itself. it's a pretty high budget game at the end of the day, right? So what do you guys think of this list? That's my tier list. Now I'm looking at it. Let's try to zoom in. For those of you who want to screenshot it, let me just go ahead and take off the camera. Let me know if you have any alterations that you think would make the list more accurate. And also, you guys should join my Discord because we often play Tekken games, both new and old. You know, we have PC gamers there too who play older Tekken games. You can get some Tekken 3 sets in, both new and retro fighting games. So join my Discord if you're interested, you know. I'm planning on hosting more online tournaments as well. So, you know, be there. Links in the description. Let me know what you guys think. I have channel memberships as well if you're interested in that. Thanks for watching.